Happy Tune Tuesday, Hivers. I've been doing a lot of newer music, 21st century music, the last couple of weeks. Now we're going to begin a journey over the course, probably the next at least couple of weeks. 80s punk rock, and we're gonna limit it to SoCal punk rock. Some bands from LA, some from Hermosa Beach, but basically SoCal. If otherwise, I will make a note of it. But there's like 10 bands that I wanted to pick. I started working on my post yesterday, and I'm recording this Monday evening, a couple hours before posting for Tuesday. And before I knew it, I'm like, oh man, there's like 7 bands. I guess I'll put once it was more bonus jams than the actual 3 tunes, I said, all right, we got to just split this up. So this is going to probably be a 3-part 3-Tune Tuesday event. 3 tunes plus 1 bonus jam. And it's going to be SoCal 80s punk. At least 80s adjacent. I think the Germs will make an appearance next week. Their album came out in 1979. But otherwise, I think we're sticking pretty much to the pure 80s. A lot of 1980, 1981, 82, 83, 84, 85. And then it slowed down in the late 80s. But there are like kind of the next wave of bands, the bands that kind of came out in the 90s. A lot of those bands are from the SoCal scene, and their first album came out in like 88, 89. So I'm going to bring you a good mix of the SoCal scene. I'm going to try to cover like the 10 most important bands. So I guess this will be a 3-week event. I'll bring you, 4 tunes every week, 3 plus a bonus. And yeah, this week I'm bringing you the Descendants, who basically were kind of the band that inspired the bands that came out in the 90s that, had kind of a pop sound to them. Bands like Green Day, Blink-182. The Descendants were really good. I know some people will hear that and think, oh, that means they're weak. No, the Descendants are really good, and they got some kick-ass punk songs. But they got some, really poppy punk, songs that would almost sound like Blink-182. And Blink-182 and MXPX and bands like that, they admit their favorite band was the Descendants, and that they got heavy, heavy influence from them. So the Descendants are a very important band for kind of what came later. Then we're going to talk Social Distortion, and then I'm going with Black Flag. I'm making a last minute change. I was going to do the Adolescents. I'm going to save that for next week. And then because the Descendants have 2 iconic punk rock records, I'm going to bring you a bonus jam from the next Descendants record, the one that came after the album where the first tune is from. All right, let's see here. Descendants from the album 1982's Milo Goes to College. Hey, you know what? I'm going to change the order here so we go in order of the years. So we're actually going to start off with Social Distortion, 1983's Mommy's Little Monster. Social Distortion, kind of, the same, came out with the bands like Black Flag and, straight up punk band on this first record. They ended up not having a second record until 1988, which really kind of sounds like what Johnny Cash would sound like if he was born, to be like a teenager in the early 80s. Just heavy country, outlaw country influence. Mike Ness, the frontman, went to jail for a few years and just, got off the drugs and got into, Johnny Cash. But for now, that's a story for another day. I'm going to pick the song Telling Them from the album Mommy's Little Monster, 1983. For the second pick, we're going to go Descendants, 1982, the album Milo Goes to College, the first Descendants record. There's some classic punk songs on this record. Suburban Home, Bikeage, Hope, Just some really, really, really classic tunes. Let me see here. Opening track, My Age. Just really, really legendary punk rock songs. I'm going to go with the song Hope. You might know it from the band Sublime covering it and it being on one of their 90s records. Just a rad song, rad band. You got to excuse me. I think I'm getting a little cold. My throat hurts a little bit. So my voice is a little off. I don't really feel that bad. My throat just kind of hurts a little bit. My glands are a little swollen. So my apologies in clearing my throat. And then we're going to go Black Flag. A band that honestly I don't really listen to as much. Like Social Distortion, The Descendants. I listened to these guys so much growing up. You know, just from listening to 90s punk and those bands' favorite bands being these bands. I always respected Black Flag, but I own a couple records, but I never really spent a lot of time listening to them. Obviously a very influential band, a band I have a lot of love for. I just didn't really listen to them as much as Descendants and Social Distortion. But, you know, we're talking 80s punk, SoCal. We got to throw Black Flag in. So, again, going in order. The year 1981. This is from the album Damaged. And I'm going to do the song. Let me see here. I'm going to do the song TV Party. TV Party Tonight. I think this song actually got a little bit of play at MTV. Which is kind of crazy. You know what? I'm switching it up. I'm going with the song Rise Above, the opening track. Rise above, you gotta rise above. Classic song. I was in a band that covered that song very briefly. But yeah, the song Six Pack is on this album. TV Party. I remember seeing the music video for TV Party. It's just them hanging out on a couch, you know, drinking beer. I remember seeing it on MTV in 1999. There was some like retrospective like 80s thing showing like older music videos. And I remember seeing the music video on MTV with one of my friends that I was in my first punk band with. And he's like, yo, what the heck? That's crazy. Black Flag. So those are the three picks. You know, three bands from the same scene. You know, very similar years, 83, 82, 81. For a bonus jam this week, I'm actually going to pick a Descendants song from their follow-up album to Milo Goes to College, the one that we just talked about. The album 1985's I Don't Want to Grow Up. They ended up putting out a bunch of albums every year for a couple years after this one. But when Milo Goes to College came out, I think they were literally seemed like they had just gotten out of high school. And I think their lead singer, Milo, literally went to college. So they took like, you know, a year or two off. That's why there was this space in between. But the album, I Don't Want to Grow Up, it's actually the logo when you go to my Hive account. You can see like there's like a drawing version of me with the guitar on the left side. You can actually see a drawing of a Descendants poster from that album cover. This is actually a drawing that I used for an album cover on a solo project I did when I was in my 20s. It was like a punk project. I actually had Aaron Comas from the Spin Doctors on drums, as well as he played guitar on some songs. I played bass and I did the singing. It was just kind of a solo thing. I had these songs that I wrote. And then I ended up writing songs with the dude from the Spin Doctors. And they're actually really catchy songs. I really didn't do much with them. But yeah, that drawing is actually by my ex-girlfriend, who drew it to be, you know, for it to be my album cover. And, you know, that's the background to my Hive account. Not my profile picture, but, you know, the background, you know, behind that. If you want to go check that out. Let's see. What song do I want to do from this album? I'm going to pick the song Good Good Things. This album has a lot of classic Descendants songs like Silly Girl. I Don't Want to Grow Up. But I'm going to go with the song Good Good Things. So those are your 3 plus 1. 4 tunes on this 3 Tune Tuesday. Next week Next week, I'm going to bring you a song from the Adolescents. I'm going to bring you a song from probably Fear and the Dead Kennedys. And then maybe a bonus jam from like the Circle Jerks or somebody like that. Or maybe I'll bring you a bonus jam from one of the bands I picked like I did this week. And who else? You got the Circle Jerks. You got Bad Religion. Yeah, so there's a good amount of stuff here. I think we'll get 3 weeks out of it. So I hope you enjoy week 1 of 80s SoCal Punk. And I'll be back next week with 3 more picks plus a bonus. And probably, string it into 3 weeks total. And maybe we'll keep it going for all of May. And I'll bring you some DC, New York, or Chicago punk rock to finish it off. But I hope you enjoy. Later.